I stared at the glossy envelope like it was something I had found in the trash. It had come too late to feel like an honest oversight. No phone call, no excited messages, just a thin card in the mail, no gold foiling, no handwritten note, nothing personal. It was a generic invitation, almost like a formality. You are invited to the wedding of Sophia Ann Roberts and Matthew Cole Hart. There wasn't even a "we hope you can make it." No mention of me being her sister, no warm sentiment. Just names and dates. I sat with the envelope in my hand, the ache in my chest growing deeper. Sophia was my older sister by 3 years. We used to share a room, whispering stories under the covers, fighting over clothes, dreaming of our futures. But over the years, something had shifted. I don't even know when it started, maybe when she started dating Matthew, maybe long before. Somewhere along the line, I became the spare sibling, the extra limb no one needed. I didn't even know she was engaged until it was posted on Instagram. A sparkly photo of a ring and that caption, he asked. I said yes, 1,000 times yes. The comments were full of hearts and well wishes. I remember staring at the screen, waiting for a text, one that never came. So when the invitation finally landed in my mailbox, I knew exactly what it meant. I wasn't really invited. I was just being included so no one could say she hadn't. The morning of the wedding, I bought my dress online. The kind of soft, dusty rose gown that was elegant but subtle. I didn't want to be noticed, but I didn't want to be invisible either. Just enough to look like I belonged, even though every fiber of me felt like I didn't. When I arrived at the venue, a beautiful vineyard with white roses crawling up every archway, I was already tense. Families were laughing, posing for pictures, hugging each other. Bridesmaids floated around in pastel silk, and I recognized none of them. Not even a single cousin I might have clung to. No one greeted me at the entrance. No usher guided me. I wandered until I found a long row of white folding chairs set up on a grassy slope facing the altar. I looked for my name, there wasn't one. After scanning the first few rows, it became clear. There were name cards for family, for friends, even for the bride's co-workers, but there was no seat for me. I was left to sit in the back, alone. So I did, 3rd row from the back. No one noticed, not even her. Ghost at the wedding, the ceremony was beautiful. Everything about it screamed curated perfection, her hair in soft waves, his eyes glistening as she walked down the aisle, the vows that made everyone dab their eyes. Everyone, except me. I sat, silent, watching the girl I used to build blanket forts with promise forever to a man who barely remembered my name. My chest felt tight, like my ribs were wrapping around my lungs. I smiled when others laughed. I clapped when others clapped. I was background noise, a placeholder in a story that used to belong to both of us. During the reception, it got worse. I had no place card at a table. I approached the list at the entrance, searching for my name. Again, nothing. Eventually, a tired-looking waiter found a seat for me at a table full of strangers' older relatives from the groom's side. They were kind enough but confused. "You're a friend of the bride," one asked. "I'm her sister," I said softly. "Oh," came the reply, polite but surprised. No one had mentioned me. The breaking point, I pushed my food around my plate while laughter echoed from the head table. Sophia was radiant, laughing with her new in-laws and bridesmaids. The maid of honor, her college roommate, made a speech that had everyone in stitches. Not once did my name come up. The ache I had tried to swallow all day began to rise in my throat like bile. I excused myself quietly and went outside. I didn't cry, not yet. I just stood near the trellis, away from the light and music, where no one would see me fall apart. That's when I saw her. My sister being led onto the dance floor by our dad. He looked so proud. She looked so happy. And I realized something. This wasn't my family anymore, at least not in the way it used to be. I was alone in every way that counted. I turned to leave, heart pounding, throat tight, when I heard a voice behind me. "Hey," it said. "Are you okay?" I turned. A man stood there, tall and slightly awkward, but kind, looking. His tie was loosened like he'd already danced a little, and he was holding a half-empty champagne flute. I blinked at him, unsure what to say. Then he looked around at the wedding and whispered, "I need a fake date. Want to pretend you're with me?" I stared. He smiled. You look like you need rescuing, and frankly, so do I. I laughed, the sound catching me off guard. And I nodded, okay, sure. He offered his arm. Let's make them wonder. His name was Illy. That was the first thing I learned about him as we strolled back into the reception hall, arms linked like we were old friends, or more. I still don't know what possessed me to say yes. Maybe it was the sheer kindness in his eyes. Maybe it was the way he didn't ask, "Who are you here with?" or "Why are you out here alone?" He didn't make me explain my sadness, he just saw it. And for the first time all day, someone actually saw me. The shift in the room when we stepped back inside, something changed, subtle but real, heads turned. Not dramatically, not like in a movie, but enough that I noticed. The girl who came alone. The one sitting near the kitchen door, half-eaten meal in front of her. Now she was walking beside a tall man in a dark navy suit, who had just whispered something in her ear that made her laugh. He led me to the bar first, smoothly ordering us both a drink like we'd done it 100 times before. "Let's give them a story," Illy said, handing me a glass of rosé. "You saved me from dancing with a drunk bridesmaid. I saved you from, well, this whole evening." I snorted softly. "You have no idea." He tilted his head, curious but not pushy. "Try me." So I told him, not everything, not all at once. Just the basics, that Sophia was my sister, that we hadn't been close in years, that I wasn't even sure she wanted me there. He didn't interrupt, didn't offer pity. He just nodded like he understood. "Families can be like glass," he said finally. "Shiny on the outside, shattered underneath. Who is Illy?" We talked for a long time, about meaningless things and meaningful things. About music and books, about bad dates and worse siblings. He made me laugh, really laugh until my ribs ached. He noticed the tiny embroidered bees on my clutch and said, "You don't strike me as a bee person." I told him I was trying to be, because bees are brave. And then, like he was casually dropping a stone into a pond, he said, "I know Sophia, by the way." I blinked. "What?" He smiled. "Well, I know of her. My cousin went to college with her. That's why I'm here. I'm kind of the plus, one of a plus one. I wasn't even supposed to be at the wedding until yesterday." "You're not friends, not even acquaintances," he said, "which is probably why I noticed you before I noticed her." That made me go quiet. Not from awkwardness, just shock, because no one had noticed me all day. Not even the woman I used to call my best friend. The dance eventually, a slow song started playing, one of those romantic, cinematic tracks that made everyone suddenly reach for a partner. I reached for my drink, but Illy offered his hand. "Dance with me." I hesitated. People are staring. He leaned in, eyes warm. "Let them," and so I did. We danced slowly, swaying under soft lights and golden lanterns, surrounded by the hum of happy couples. For the first time in hours, I didn't feel like an outsider. I didn't feel invisible. I felt chosen. And maybe that was all I needed. Cracks in the facade halfway through the dance. I caught Sophia looking at us. Just for a second, but it was there. Her eyes narrowed, confused, maybe even a little irritated, like she couldn't quite place what she was seeing. Like she hadn't expected me to be glowing in the middle of her spotlight. Illy noticed too. "Well," he said, grinning. "Looks like someone's curious." I glanced up at him. "Do you think she's mad?" "Good, good. I like seeing you get under her skin," he said. "She made you feel small. Now she has to wonder how she missed something. Big." I swallowed. "This is just pretend though, right?" He looked at me for a long time. "Do you want it to be?" I didn't know how to answer that. The interruption later that night, as we sat under one of the canopy tents with fairy lights tangled above us, a figure approached. It was Rachel, one of Sophia's oldest friends, the one who used to mock me for wearing hand-me-downs. The one who once told a group of girls that I was the weird sister with no social skills. She was holding a glass of wine and a fake smile. "Well, hello," she cooed. "I didn't realize you brought a date." I felt myself tense, but Illy didn't flinch. He looked straight at her and said, "Yeah, I was lucky," she said yes. Rachel blinked, clearly thrown. "So, how did you two meet? Work?" I said quickly, lying. We, collaborate sometimes, on marketing campaigns. Illy smiled. And I've been trying to convince her to let me take her to dinner for months. Rachel's mouth twitched. Well, good for you. She left soon after, and as she walked away, Illy leaned in and whispered, She totally hates that you're happy. I laughed. For real, because she did. And for the first time that night, I didn't care. Something begins the wedding wore on. People danced, toasts were made, speeches slurred, but I felt distant from it all. Like I had crossed some invisible bridge into a different version of myself. Not the forgotten sister, not the afterthought, but someone seen, someone wanted. At the end of the night, as people began to leave, Illy helped me with my coat. He didn't try anything, didn't ask for my number in a slimy way. He just said, if you ever want to talk again, or fake, date through another disaster, I'm around. I looked at him, heart weirdly full. I might just take you up on that. He smiled, good, because I don't fake, date often, but I'd do it again for you. And with that, he left. And I stood there alone again, but this time, not lonely. I thought that would be the end of it. A moment of unexpected sweetness in a day full of bitterness. A kind stranger with good timing and a better heart. I figured I'd go home, crawl into bed, and let it all wash over me like rain on a rooftop. Soft, sad, and forgotten. But sometimes, the universe isn't done with you just yet. Sometimes, it's only setting the stage. Whispers and shifting eyes the morning after the wedding. My phone buzzed nonstop. At first, I thought it was spam until I saw the names. Who was that guy you were with? You looked amazing last night. Sophia didn't say you were dating anyone. He's hot. One message from a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years simply said, proud of you. The most ironic part, I hadn't done anything except exist with confidence for once, and it rattled them, because confidence, when it blooms in someone they dismissed, becomes a threat. A little lie becomes a mirror. I didn't respond to most of the messages. I didn't need to let them wonder. Let the story unfold in their heads. I wasn't dating Illy, not technically, but the way he treated me, like I was worth being seen, worth holding space for, that wasn't fake. I scrolled through the wedding photos posted online later that week. I wasn't in many, but one caught my eye. Illy and me, on the dance floor, my hand on his chest, his eyes on me like I was the only person in the room. In the background, just over his shoulder, Sophia staring at us, lips pursed, eyes narrowed. It was all the confirmation I needed. The call that changed everything 3 days after the wedding. Sophia called me, first time in months. I nearly didn't answer, but some part of me wanted to hear her voice, maybe even hear an apology. It didn't come. Hey, she said, too casual. So, I didn't know you were bringing someone to the wedding. I leaned back on my bed. Wasn't sure I was even invited, so I didn't think it mattered. Silence, just for a moment, then she laughed, tight and fake. You know I wanted you there. I didn't reply, she went on, her voice coated in sugary tension. He's cute, what's his name again? Elijah, Illy, I corrected. He's great, she paused. How long have you two been? Long enough. More silence. She was trying to make sense of this new version of me, and hating every second of it. Well, she said finally, I'm glad you had fun. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to chase her approval. I didn't try to explain myself. I didn't shrink. I just said I did, and hung up. Becoming someone new, the weeks that followed were different. Not just because Illy and I began texting, long, thoughtful messages that turned into calls, and then calls into dinner. Real dinner, real dates, not pretend, not fake. Something real rooted in shared understanding and soft beginnings. But even more than that, I changed. I started showing up for myself. I bought that bold red coat I used to think I couldn't pull off. I took a solo weekend trip to the coast and didn't apologize for it. I reached out to friends I had let drift away, not to complain, but to reconnect. The girl at that wedding sitting alone, shrinking in her seat, hoping to be noticed, she was gone. A final twist of fate 2 months later, I ran into Rachel again. At a cafe, she spotted me before I could escape and walked right up, that same smirk on her lips. Still with the mystery man, she asked. I smiled, a slow, genuine, unbothered smile. Still, she tried to cover her surprise, but it showed. Wow, well, didn't see that coming. I know. I said sweetly. You didn't see me coming either. She blinked. And I walked away. And then there was peace. I didn't need revenge, not really. Not the cruel kind, not the petty kind. But there was something profoundly satisfying about rising above people who once looked down on you, and doing it without ever raising your voice. Illy never asked me for a label. He never rushed me. He just kept showing up. One quiet evening, as we sat on my couch watching a rerun of a show I loved, he brushed a hair from my face and said, "You know I'd pretend with you forever, but I'd rather be real." I looked at him, this man who rescued me without needing to fix me, and whispered, "Then let's be real." Final thoughts: I went to a wedding expecting to be humiliated, forgotten, maybe even broken a little more. Instead, I left with my head high, my heart cracked open, and the sweetest revenge of all, becoming the version of myself they never saw coming. And all it took was a stranger leaning in and saying, "Act like you're with me." Turns out, I finally am.